head figures, pull triggers for you niggas when you caught up in the trenches, man.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to today's graduation ceremony. Students, when you hear the reason or reasons for your absences throughout the years, please exit the auditorium without your high school diploma. Once you've exited, remove your cap and gown and proceed into the unknown. Too tired. Family trip. Part-time job. Helping around the house. Sick day. Starting the holidays early. Just because.
Starting in the 6th grade.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective. Welcome. It is 5th Thursday, and we are reconnecting with your hosts. We have
A. Bourne Jr. and
Lolita E. Walker. Hello.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. We have had so many amazing guests on this show throughout the last month, right?
We've been really fortunate.
We really have been. And so today is really all about a reconnection with us. We're going to talk communication.
The C word.
I mean, the C word. What a huge undertaking right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you think you're communicating very well, but somehow they just don't get it? It could be frustrating. I mean...
And some of the worst communicators I know think that they are the best communicators in the world. So sometimes there's a disconnect.
I'm an awesome communicator.
Perception
I don't know why
is
people
everything,
don't get
right?
it.
I don't know why nobody understands.
Nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. But let's start easy. Hey, for those of you that are joining us, I think I saw Jennifer Sousa and Vicky. I think you were on as well. So let's just talk communication. What are some misconceptions that you have? But before we do that, we're just going to start with ourselves and our wins for the week. What's your win for the week, Mervin?
I had a major victory in court earlier this week.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
So, thank you. It was pretty monumental for me. It was something that I hadn't done in a long time, so there was a lot of pressure on me. A lot of it self-imposed. But it was just really good to get that win and to feel like, yeah, you didn't lose it.
That's awesome.
You still got it.
That's what I'm talking about. We still got it. For those of you who are new to our show, we had celebrated 20 years graduating from college a couple of weeks ago. So we got to take all the wins we could get, right?
That's right. 20 years flew by real quick.
So what's my win for the week? I think my win for the week, honestly, is that I am writing this big speech, and every time I think it's right there, I get some feedback. But this feedback this week was really all about, I love where this speech is going. Here's how we can enhance it a little bit more. So I think I've shifted my viewpoint and how I'm looking at the speech itself, but it's just turned out so great. So I'm super excited about it. Hashtag win. I felt really good.
The funny thing about that is every time you bring it to me, I think, oh, this is it.
This is it, right? Yeah.
And then every time you bring it back, it's better.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't think it could be any better.
Right.
So I think that in itself is just such a huge lesson about just going back and putting in more effort and more effort and being humble enough to accept constructive criticism and to just take in information that you get from other people. And, you know, some things you won't use, some things you will use. But just humility goes a long way, and being open-minded takes us so far.
Yeah, I think that goes on to our topic today, too, for communication, because so many times people say, oh, I just gave in. And I want to challenge people that let's not give in, but let's understand or try our best to understand where the other person is coming from, what we could have done differently, but also what their viewpoint is. Because I think that matters. And I think as we get older, then that becomes our frame of mind.
And also, I think the key to add to that is it matters even if you don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah.
And I think we definitely live in a society today where people only value opinions that echo their own.
Yeah.
If what you think and what you say doesn't mirror what I think and what I say, then your opinion has no value and it's irrelevant.
Or you say you're listening, or you say, all right, I'm going to try to get it, but really in your mind at the same time, you already are 5 steps ahead. So you're not really listening and
With the
taking it in.
rebuttal.
With the rebuttal.
Yeah.
With the rebuttal. And the rebuttal that you give really could easily be on a fact that was like 10 minutes
Yeah.
earlier. So, yeah, so much to talk about. We're going to be talking about verbal communication, nonverbal communication, written communication, anything that has you expressing yourself. So we'd love for you to write in on Now We're Talking radio show on Facebook. We're on YouTube.
And Be Exposed Radio's page on Facebook as well.
Yep. We also are going to ask you to call in tonight. 410-702-5657. Again, 410-702-5657. We say things in unison around here. It works out well. Wow. So a couple of guests that we've had on, I think we've each trickled to communication over time. Our guest last week was our doctor show.
Yeah.
Which was super cool. And I think it was really all about communicating to your doctors and really expressing yourself with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's integral to your own personal care to be honest and communicative with them, not hide things from them, not sugarcoat things to them, because then they can't adequately treat you and assess your medical needs.
Absolutely.
Could be a life or death situation.
Absolutely. How do you guys feel that you communicate? What's your communication style? We're talking communication styles today too.
Yes, there are different styles of communication, right? So some people are a little more aggressive, some people are more passive.
Yeah.
Then there's your, what's probably a favorite of many, passive aggressive.
Yes. How many times do people say, you're just so passive aggressive? We're going to get into the definition of what that really is today. And then we're going to get into 4 styles of communication. And if you look that up, there's so many different variants to what those 4 styles could be. But in essence, they're kind of all the same. So we're going to talk from the aspect of, are you a driver? Are you action oriented? Are you analytical, meaning you're process oriented? Are you amiable, meaning that you're a people person? Or are you expressive, meaning that you have an idea that you speak from? Do you have to be just one? Because I feel like I might go into a couple of these.
I think you could definitely be a mixture of more than one communication style.
Absolutely.
Because some people are one way in one group of people and a completely different way in another group of people. Or one way at work and come home in completely different communication style.
I know. And which one is dominant? When does it come out? You know, what's the one, you take all these tests when you're in corporate America, and it tells you who you are, how you should communicate with other people, how you interact. And so for me, when I saw process and analytical, I'm an engineer by trade. And so that absolutely, I have checklists for days. Check. I do.
And what happens when you leave the workplace, but you can't turn off that communication style?
I don't turn. I know it's still there.
Right?
It still
And
lingers. Yep.
What happens when you speak to your mate like they're a subordinate
Yep.
in the office?
True. I have been accused of that.
Rocky times.
Yes, I have been accused of that in the past. In the past.
I definitely have as well been accused of speaking to people like I'm in the courtroom.
Yes, I have been. But you know what I've learned as I've transitioned into a different career is more so relax a little. It's not, you're not at work. But sometimes it's so hard to turn that off.
Yeah.
And do you have to turn it off? I think that there's value in our innate qualities. Like I am a check marker by trade.
Yeah.
That's just what I do. In my mind, I'm very 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's not so much turn it off, but it's more so relax a little.
Right.
Get out of work mode, unwind, reset.
Yeah.
So that you can be present.
Right. And I'm trained to remember what people say. So in situations where I remember what you say to me better than you remember what you said, it can be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can see the lawyer coming out.
Because if in regular communication,
Yep.
people tend not to remember exactly what they say during
Yep.
conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes say one thing and then a few minutes later say something that's different than what they said, or sometimes even the opposite of what they said 10 minutes ago.
But are you listening to the words that came out of their mouth, or are you hearing what they meant by the words that came out of their mouth?
It's everything. And
Okay.
so sometimes that's the problem.
Yeah,
Because I'm
I can
hearing
see-
you,
yeah.
I'm understanding you, but I'm also remembering what you said to me, because in order to be good at my job, I have to remember what people say to me.
So this is a great topic, because a lot of times we have these topics where we can talk from a man's and a woman's perspective. So it'll be really interesting as we get into relationships, because we're also going to talk about communication with children, communication in relationships, communications at work, communication with your friends when you're just chilling, having a cocktail and just relaxing, what that looks like, and what it feels like when somebody jumps in and says something crazy. You're like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking so much today. Let me just take a look at what we have going on here. Hi, Eric. Hi, Robert. Lord puts you in a place, be still and say thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like that a lot.
Yep. Hi, Wynette. How are you? So, hey, you guys on Facebook Watch Party, please let us know. Hey, Anissa. Please let us know what you think about communication. What type of communicator are you? Are you a driver? You're all about action? Are you analytical and you check the box every single time? You're fact-oriented, you're organized and systematic? Are you amiable? That means you're a people person. You like acceptance. Or are you expressive? And that idea just matters.
And what communication styles don't you like? What communication styles drive you crazy?
Your pet peeve.
We'll talk about it as soon as we come back with Now We're Talking with Mervin and Lolita. Stay with us.
Listen to this flashback of Skyline Radio Show.
So where we at? Where we talk about the effects and what's going on in these schools?
Yeah.
And what people don't understand. Just real briefly, I just want to talk a little bit about what people say bullying is or is not. So bullying comes in many forms. It's a teasing, it's the cyberbullying, it's the texting, it's the phone calls, it's the posting of pictures and people's personal information to pretty much cause them harm, to have them feel insecure. It's the sex assaults that people actually put out there. There are physical assaults, and there are mental assaults and emotional assaults. And what I like to remind individuals that any aggressive behavior towards anyone that is unwanted and unwarranted, and an individual asks you to stop. Let's stop there. Stop.
And they should be respecting that.
Respecting that and respecting yourself, because when you're able to respect another person, you're able to respect yourself. And the way that you're able to show that respect is that you know that you have a gift, and you know you're uniquely made and that you matter, and then you also acknowledge that the next person beside you matters as well.
Right.
You know, and we lose that sometimes. Bullying is a behavior that underestimates the lives and legacy of you. I'm sure when they was bullying me, and I'm sure when they was bullying you, they didn't understand who you're going to become later on. I didn't know.
Right, because I'm popping. I can't pop. All right, let me tell you, all those people who felt like they wanted to say whatever to me, look at me now. It's like, no, y'all don't understand, but I've been through some things, okay?
And you know what? No. I applaud you and I salute you, because a lot of times we do not take the time to say, I'm okay, and I'm okay with me, and there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm amazing, and I'm blessed, and I'm strong, and I matter.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for Skyline Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Whatever happened to the times when we cared for one another? We shared the same respect. What is happening? We're trading what's important for shiny things. I can't allow this blasphemy. It's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Don't lose yourself, stay on track. Baby, you're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. Full of the things that we've overcome. Full of unspoken battles we've won. You're so much better than that. Sometimes the truth ain't always catchy as rap. Stop chasing cheese or you get stuck in a trap. Go get your crown and never render it back. No, it's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. You're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. You're way too
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit the Shelter Pet Project.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr. and Lolita E. Walker.
Hello, hello, hello. We have quite a topic tonight.
Yes, 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 we do. Communication.
Yeah.
Communication styles.
Yeah, communication. We're going to be talking with our children, communication with our significant others, communication with our friends. Do they differ? What style are you? We have 4 styles that we're talking tonight. Are you a driver, meaning you like action? Are you analytical, meaning you communicate with the process, you're very methodical? Are you amiable, which means are you a people person, right? Do you like to please? Do you like to cooperate? Do you like perception and you don't like conflict? And then are you expressive?
Right. And we're also going to get into nonverbal communication, which is often the elephant in the room.
It is. And I feel like really particularly with minorities, I remember going to a session when I was first starting in corporate America about reading nonverbal cues and being in a room where black males would say, people get so intimidated when I sit at a table and I lean up and it's just one-on-one. And I don't know if you've had that experience, but maybe we could start there after we talk to our audience, especially our new viewers, about who we are.
Right, right. So again, for those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Mervin A. Bourne Jr. I am the co-host of the show you're watching, Now We're Talking, and I'm also the author of A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son. I'm an attorney by trade, slash talk show host, slash author, also soon to be retreat leader in fourth quarter 2019.
Really excited about that.
Inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, and world changer.
I love it. I love it. So I am Lolita E. Walker. I am the author of The Intersection of You and Change, which is a women's empowerment guide to truly leap to your unknown. And what does that mean? You hop aboard Lolita's change train. Choo choo. I love doing that.
Oh, I missed it.
You missed it? Okay. It you hop aboard Lolita's change train. Choo choo. That's why you got to love your co-host. I love it. We're all in. And I journey you through 17 stops of self-discovery, of motivation, of affirmations, really because as busy women in particular, we rarely pause. And when we do, it's associated with things like guilt. Should I do this? Is it the right time? And so this really journeys you through that. It journeys you through things like Gratitude Gateway or Communication Circle, which we'll be talking a little bit about tonight.
Yes.
It's not only just a book, but it's also a workbook. So I also host women's retreats twice a year. The next one is September 19th through the 22nd, only an hour from DC, so I can't wait to have you. I'm so excited about Mervin's upcoming first retreat, so yay. And I'm a certified life and executive coach. So I really empower individuals and teams to thrive in their greatness. And I do it through a number of ways. So I'm happy to share that with you guys. And it's all about communication.
Yep.
It's all about communication.
Communication is key to just about everything related to human relationships, human interaction. Everything starts with communication, whether it's verbal or non-communication.
Yep.
Verbal or non-verbal communication.
So tell me, do you have experiences with, as a black male, as a minority, being at the table with someone and then maybe perceiving your nonverbal cues, or you moving up, or you putting your hands together, or your voice being articulated?
It's funny that you frame it in that way, because from my perspective, being a black male, you have to always be conscious of how you do everything. So it's not just in particular situations when you're, sitting at a table or in a meeting or presenting to people. It's everything you do, you have to be conscious of how you're being perceived. You have to be conscious of who you're speaking to, and also the personality of the people you're speaking to. So if you're speaking to people that are self-confident, are not intimidated by being around other intelligent people, because you'd be surprised. I mean, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. You've been in corporate America. Some people are very intimidated by not being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Some people are very intimidated by intelligence coming out of a box that doesn't fit their box.
Right.
So that might be a woman. That might be a black person. That might be a short person. And anytime you do something or express yourself in a way that doesn't fit someone's box, you can make them uncomfortable.
Right.
So it really just depends on, are you in a situation where you can adapt and bend, or are you in a situation where you will not adapt, you will not bend, and the person is going to have to take you or leave you?
Or you will not take that on. And so where I am in my space now in life is, I won't take that on. So when I was in corporate America, the feedback that my dad would always give me is, talk to that person. Take that person offline and talk to them about how you perceive the meeting went.
Right.
Is there something that they, this is what you thought, this is what you took away, and is there something that they want to talk about? Everybody's not receptive to that, but what it does is it puts people on notice. I do think that you need to be cognizant, don't get me wrong, especially because how you show up can influence where you go from there. Right.
It also depends on what your goal is, right?
Exactly.
So if, for example, your goal is to obtain information from someone, then you can't necessarily have a take it or leave it approach. You can't use a one size fits all approach.
Exactly.
Because that whole dynamic depends on who you're speaking to and where that person's coming from, what space they're in. If you're speaking to a vulnerable person, or a person that's been a victim of a crime or a victim of abuse, you can't speak to them the same way you might speak to someone who has not had all.
But at work, you might not know that. In an outside restaurant, you might not know that.
Right. Like if it's a stranger.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's why we did a good job for this show today to take it in segments, because communication in these 4 boxes that we talked about, being a driver, analytical, expressive, and amiable, can be different in different situations. And when we talk about the nonverbal cues, I think it is, if you're having a meeting, someone, like you said, like, know who you're meeting with. Know what your goal is. I'm always about a goal. Know what you want to get out of the conversation before you walk into it.
And a lot of times when we communicate, we're not really cognizant of what our goals are. So for example, sometimes your goal might be to get something off your chest. And in that situation, you don't really care if you're understood. You don't care if your words are being appreciated, because that's not your goal. Your goal is to get whatever it is off your chest. But in that moment, you have to be conscious of the fact that you're not speaking, or you may not necessarily be communicating in a way that's conducive to being understood.
Right.
And that is on you as the communicator, not on the person who's listening.
Who's receiving.
Right.
So, you're a giver and a taker. There's a giver and a taker, a receiver and a giver. And so I always coach people to have a goal in whatever conversation you're going into. I love that. What's the 3 things you're trying to achieve in this conversation?
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. And something that I've had to ask myself more often as I'm trying to evolve as a person and be a better person, be a better parent, be a better friend, etc., is what are my communication flaws? And I think that that's something that I would challenge anyone listening tonight to really challenge yourself to think of those things. What are my communication flaws? What can I do better? What can I do to be a better communicator?
And what have people told you? Because, you know, if you ask, and maybe that's something that you want to ask.
Who asked that?
I do.
I mean, like, really, who asked that? Like, how can I be a better communicator? Or what am I doing wrong? Or is there something I could be doing better?
Is there something I can improve upon? I think there's value in asking what is a strength of mine and what's one opportunity that I can be better in. And there's value in asking that not only from your manager, but your peers, your friends. There's value in that. I talk about that in the book, actually. Not very often do we find people who ask that question and then literally listen to the answer.
Very rare.
Believe your strengths. I think the opportunities that come from you, make sure that you have an example. Say, oh, can you give me an example of that?
I like that you raised strengths, though, right off the back of that, because being vulnerable enough, and I really think is a sign of emotional security.
Absolutely.
To ask another person about something that's a potential weakness of yours is a sign of strength.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think people that are actually lacking in security or lacking in strength are going to be more resistant to doing that.
Yep.
But in exposing your strengths and exposing your weaknesses and becoming more aware of where you can be better and do better, you actually are empowering yourself to be stronger and better.
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down. No, I'm all in. I'm all in. So for this piece here, we talked about the nonverbal cues. And I think one of the things you said is that you just make yourself aware of what's your goal and who is it that you're talking to.
Right.
Because will that change? I feel like some things are innate. Like even here, you'll naturally lean in when you're inquisitive.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not taking that on of how that person perceives it, but I think we talked about talking to that person. Like if you saw something shifted and then they became on guard, maybe talking to them about it after the conversation or pointing it out like, hey, is everything all right? Are you good? So I don't want folks to walk away with the fact that we don't recognize that is happening. I used to see it happening all the time. I used to sit in meetings and really see people's body language change based off of what somebody else did, a nonverbal cue to that. So, yeah, I know. I feel like we blew through the break too. I feel like we have a couple minutes, so we'll wait until the engineer says wrap it up. But all in all, I love the idea of okay. Okay. So we're going to keep on going.
Yeah, till 47.
I love it. So talking about the nonverbal cues, I think some of the things we talked about already were what we just said is be cognizant of what you're doing, but understand who you're talking to, what the goal is. If you see that they're not as receptive, then talk to them about it afterwards, because they are probably uncomfortable.
So when you say nonverbal cues, nonverbal communication, I think some people might not really be aware of what exactly you mean by that. So let's throw some things out there. What are some things that you do?
Some things that I see. I don't know if I do, but some things that I see, I probably do. When I'm really interested in what's going on, I might lean in. And it's not to be taken as if I'm being confrontational. I'm really trying to listen. I'm all in, right? It could be sitting back and that being perceived as you not paying attention. It really just could be my back is bothering me.
It's so nuanced though, right? Because you can sit back and fold your arms, right? But the sitting back without the arm fold means something different.
Absolutely.
Or you can lean in and squint at the person, right? Which means something different than a lean in with regular eyes.
Right, but it could be I can't see.
It could be you can't see. Exactly. Or it could be I'm putting you under the hot light.
But I do believe, this is why I do believe that diversity and inclusion is so important. Because I believe it's important to understand social norms or cultural norms or what people just naturally do.
And real diversity, not just surface diversity. So what I mean by that is diversity where cultures are actually shared and talked about, and these nuances are discussed. Because a lot of times I've found through life experience that there is diversity in appearance, but everyone is still striving to act and think exactly the same. Which is not really diversity, is
Fair.
it?
So let's take examples, because you did ask for examples. And I talked about, as a black male, when you sit up inside of a corporate environment, how do people perceive that? And then not taking that on because that's just your normal. That's just you trying to be inquisitive, you trying to be all in. On the other side of that, I've been in leadership team meetings where people say like, oh, this person did this, or they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, Lolita, can you talk to me about, does that mean anything? Did you see this person do this? And it's kind of like, oh, yeah, he just couldn't hear, or he just really couldn't see. His contact was messed up. One, understanding what that is, but one, talking about it and feeling vulnerable enough to have that conversation, I think is big.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
And then teaching our children, oh my gosh, we could talk a million years about police and what non-verbal cues or verbal cues, raising your voice. What do you teach your son? When a police comes up to the car.
Along those lines, even things as simple as eye contact. And some people were raised never to look authority figures in the eye. Some people were raised, in some cultures, it's disrespectful to look people in the eye when you speak to them. Some people were raised to put their heads down when you're speaking to certain people. I raised my children to treat everyone with the same level of respect, from the beggar on the street to, you know, the judge in the courtroom. Everyone deserves the same amount of respect. You walk with your head held high at all times. You look people in the eye when you speak to them. And I just hope that they take those things with them through life. And it's not easy advice to give, because in giving that advice, I understand that doing those things, being that confident, being that self-assured, will at times have negative repercussions for them. So so it's, in one way, it's hard to give that advice. But nonetheless, I still think that I do them a disservice if I give them different advice.
I think based on how we were brought up, based on what we've seen in society, based on the news, based on what we read, we're teaching our children, or trying to teach our children, nonverbal cues, what that could mean. And by the way, there's so much coming at us. We're not going to take on everybody else's issue. Because like you said, we're raising our children to be confident, to keep their head up, to say yes ma'am, yes sir.
You shouldn't take on everyone's issue, but some people, I think, do that and try to be like what everyone else needs them to be in terms of their communication and their personality. And it's a slippery slope, because you can't please everyone. And you can't, there's only so much morphing you can do, right?
And there is a morph. There is a fundamental morph that happens when you go to work, right? You shift your language when you go to work. There is a language of every job, of every corporation, of every business.
What I find is that I try to make the morph as minimal as possible. And whether it's the way I speak, the language I use, I try to make it as little difference as possible between, because then I find myself being the most authentic person I can be for as long as I can be.
And your happier self and your true self. Absolutely.
Right. And that's always my goal, is to never be inauthentic to please other people.
Absolutely. But it comes in time, or somebody showing you. So for our guests who have just joined, I see a couple of people have come. Hey Jeremy, hey Kelly.
Hey Dave, hey Gino.
Yes, we are talking communication today. It's the 5th Thursday, so Mervin and I are flying solo and just reconnecting with you guys on a communication topic. We are talking all things communication. So we're talking 4 communication styles. So if you just joined, let us know. Are you a driver, meaning you are action oriented, you need to see results for your communication? Are you analytical, meaning you're process driven, methodical? Like me, I'm an engineer by trade. I am just naturally, innately methodical. Are you amiable? Are you a people pleaser? Do you hate conflict? Do you prefer to work in teams for collaboration?
Are you a micromanager?
Oh, that's a big one.
Are you a control freak?
I have a little bit of control in me. I'm letting that go a little bit more now, but you know, somebody else can chime in. And
you know, I always tell people, if you're over the age of 30, are you over the age of 30?
I know people are confused. Yes.
Okay. That was a gamble. If you're over the age of 30, however you are has been in the making for 3 decades. So I always remind people, you can't change 3 decades of programming in a week or 2 weeks
it's
or
work.
2 months.
It's
so
work.
Set realistic goals, cut yourself some slack, and consider it a win that you recognize something that needs to be changed, or that you recognize an area of growth.
Yeah.
Don't be too hard on yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do think that as we get older, we recognize that there's shifts in life. It changes what's important to us, which means it changes our language, which means how we speak to people, how we interact with people, how we appreciate people, what we're willing to take on. I will say that what I'm willing to stand for now, what I'm really willing to have come into my space by way of communication is much different.
Right.
And it's on a shorter span of time.
And the people in your life are probably on a shorter leash too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because I'm very
a
clear.
common experience.
I'm very clear on the positivity that I want around me. I'm very clear on the people that I am inviting into my space and for what reason, because they're either helping me, because I think as you get older, it becomes clear who people are.
Yeah.
And it's okay to shift. It's so okay to shift. I truly believe that people come into your life for a reason in a season. And God intentionally puts people in your path
I believe
and takes them out.
I believe that 100%. I had a conversation earlier this week about the law of attraction. And it seems to be something that people believe really strongly in when it comes to good things happening to them. But when terrible things happen to them or rough experiences happen, people really want to believe that I attracted that.
Yeah.
I attracted that rough experience. Something about me or in me attracted that valley stage of life. But if you believe in the law of attraction at the peaks, then you have to believe in it at the valleys as well. In the valleys as well.
Yeah, I believe that we must thank God for the good and the bad. I believe that we attract things based off of where we are in our lives, what we're feeling, what we're emitting, the energy that we're giving off, and the energy that we allow for in our space.
Yeah.
I told Walker the other night, I have a box, right? Or a circle, whatever you want. I have this space around me. And we are going to be selective of who we allow inside of our personal space. And you're going to be respectful for when you're walking into somebody's space. When somebody walks up too close to you, what do? You automatically move back.
You automatically try to create space.
Yes.
Unless you feel like you don't have a choice, or unless you feel like that's going to make the situation worse, right?
I don't know. I always move back. I always seem to move back. What do you guys think? I mean, when we talk communication, what style are you? And then which of these styles bothers you the most?
I don't like to be micromanaged. And respect is very high on my list.
Yeah.
I don't like to be spoken to in a way that I perceive as displaying a lack of respect, or in a way that I feel demeans my intelligence or my experience, or like a child.
But what does that feel like? Is that somebody being sarcastic? Is that somebody saying, oh, we got to do this task, this task, this task? Like, what does that feel like to you? Or look like, more so?
It could be It could be something as simple as repeating something
that they've already said.
very close in time to when you said it the first time, or the second or third,
because you didn't
or fourth
move,
time.
Because you didn't move right away.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It could be because the perception of me not following through, or acting as I was expected to act.
Yeah.
Or saying what I was expected to say. Or it could be something as simple as passive-aggressive behavior is a big pet peeve of mine.
Let's look that up. People say passive-aggressive all the time.
Right.
We have a little cheat sheet right here. So passive-aggressive communication, I have been accused of this, so I'm eager to see. And I accuse people of this all the time because I believe I know what it is. But this says, which is the resource is provided by UK Violence Intervention and Resource Center. Passive-aggressive communication is a style in which individuals appear passive on the surface, but are really acting out of anger in a subtle, indirect, and behind-the-scenes way. People develop a pattern of passive-aggressive communication to feel powerless, stuck. They usually feel powerless, stuck, and resentful in their words. They feel incapable of dealing directly with their objects or their resentment. I don't think this is me. Passive-aggressive communicators will often mutter to themselves rather than confront the person. I don't do that. Have difficulty acknowledging their anger. I don't think so. People have said I'm angry, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. Use facial expressions that don't match how they feel. Smiling when they're angry. Oh, that bothers me so much. I had a teacher, Miss Wolf. Miss Wolf, are you watching? She was a dance teacher, and she would always get smart, like, all right, just do it. And you'd be like, oh, I want to knock that smile off her face. They use sarcasm. Deny there is a problem. Is this what you were thinking when you said
yes,
passive-aggressive?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, gotcha.
If someone says, are you upset? Or did I say something to upset you? No, I'm fine, when you're obviously not fine. Or no, I'm not angry, when you're obviously angry.
Really? You think that's passive-aggressive?
Absolutely.
I don't know about that. I feel like that could just be, I don't really want to get into it right now. It's not worth the energy.
Well, then why not say that?
Oh, you could say that. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great.
Like saying what you're actually thinking and feeling, in my opinion.
Oh, because it's passive-aggressive because they said, no, I'm good, but really what they're acting out is not that they're good. That's why you're saying that. Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that.
Because because the person, whoever you're communicating with, also then has to deal with the dilemma of acting on the words that came out of your mouth, or acting on everything
what they think
your body is showing and telling them.
Or are you perceiving what you feel like they're giving, but the words out of their mouth are clear?
That's always possible. But the example you just gave with the dance teacher, did you perceive a smile, or was she smiling?
No, she was smiling.
So sometimes it's perception, and sometimes your eyes are not lying to you.
And my daddy, when he was here, also noted the same thing. So I felt like we were on the same page. When multiple people can see the same thing, then...
With the dance teacher?
With the dance teacher, Miss Wolf. She wore all black all the time. What school was that? Maybe it was Mary Church Terrell. I don't know. Yeah. Well, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, I think we've talked about a lot. So when we come back, we're going to go more on communication. Let's talk about children.
Children and communication. That's easy, right?
Okay.
It's pretty easy.
All right. When we're back, now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. It's all about communication and reconnecting.
See you in a minute. Come back with us.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
You want to start off?
I think I'll get it out of the way on a who's not.
Okay, do it.
The Orioles.
Right.
They got swept by the Royals. They lost 4 in a row, and the last 5 games have all been decided by 1 run. The game before, or the last game that they lost before the Royals was the Nationals, and it was Weeders, of course, one with a home run,
hit the home run.
Right.
They're going into that national series, it seemed like they were doing so well, and they just crapped out. They got that game postponed, so who knows when they're going to replay that or play that game. That's my first not for the night.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and weigh in on my who's not, and I'm gonna talk about the San Diego Padres.
The Padres. That's okay. You just took my answer.
They're in last place in the NL West. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Their run differential is a negative 65, which is just horrible. So when you have well, let me just talk about run differential a little bit. It's kind of like the
how much you're winning or losing your games by, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the margin of victory, kind of.
Right.
So when you're in a negative number, that means that then your average game you're losing
by a whole lot. Right.
I mean, a number like negative 65, this early in the season is pretty rough.
That's horrible.
The pitching numbers pretty much support this stat right here. I mean, the team ERA is 4.70, which is 26th in the league. They have 126 walks allowed. They acquired Jared Weaver in the offseason, and he really has not panned out. He's off to one of the worst starts in any of the pitchers in 2017. He's 0-4 with a 6.05 ERA. In May alone, he already has 12 earned runs. 12 earned runs in May. And, another one of their pitchers, Clayton Richard, he's 2-4 with a 4.34 ERA. And, in May, he has 6 earned runs and 12 innings pitched. So they're not pitching well. And on top of that, they're also not batting well.
Right. But it kind of sucks because Manuel Margot is doing pretty good. His the past few at bats, his last.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Oh, we're back. Are you doing?
We're live.
Oh, hey, and welcome back. It is Thursday. It's the 5th Thursday, and we are all about reconnecting with you all. We are so excited. Some more folks have joined on, so we'd love for you to join in. We are talking communication.
Welcome to everybody that's watching in the live chat. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Send in your questions. Send in your comments.
Yep.
Let us know what's on your mind in terms of communication styles.
Yep.
What's your communication style? What communication styles irritate you or turn you off?
And which ones do you love for folks to communicate to you with? We talked about 4 different styles. So, are you a driver, meaning you love action-oriented type of things? That's how you communicate. Are you analytical? Like me, I believe I'm analytical, really process-driven, organized, systematic. Methodical. Are you amiable? So a people type of person. Do you love cooperation and team environments? Or are you expressive and ideal? So you want to be accepted by others and you're sociable, you're enthusiastic. Which one of those people are you? And then which one of those people do you love to communicate to you or with? And then which ones drive you insane?
And then even with those styles, there are nuances to those styles that involve whether or not you are passive or aggressive or assertive or passive aggressive is the one we were most recently talking about.
We were talking about
the last segment.
Being passive aggressive and folks just being, I accuse people of being passive aggressive. People accuse me of being passive aggressive. But as we read it, I didn't really see a pattern of me being passive aggressive.
Are you an eye roller? Are you an eye cutter?
I do not believe so.
not you personally.
Oh, okay.
But to the audience, are you an eye roller? Are you an eye cutter? Are you a neck twister?
Do you mean to? Do people tell you to fix your face all the time?
Are you an arm folder? Do people ask you what's wrong with you or something wrong often?
Yeah, people do ask me what's wrong. I don't know. That's interesting.
So that's not necessarily passive aggressive, but that's just an example that we all have a disposition.
Yes,
and sometimes
absolutely.
we're just not aware of what our disposition is.
Or sometimes we are aware and we're meaning to give it to you exactly how we're intending, but it's intentional.
Very true.
So some of the things we talked about before the break were, you know, we talked about nonverbal cues, and sitting back in a chair could give somebody the impression that you're being lazy or that you're disengaged. Moving up closer could give somebody the impression of something when all it is that you're really trying to hear better. Or squinting, I'm just really trying to see you because my contact is messed up.
As opposed to trying to intimidate the person.
Exactly. And so what we talked about is not taking on other people's insecurities. Or other people's feelings for you. But if you do notice it, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a conversation with that person. Just pulling them to the side amicably and saying, hey, you know what, in our last meeting, this is what I saw. Was I reading it right, or was I totally off base?
And also, even before you get to that stage, just being conscious of how people are responding to your physical cues and your nonverbal cues. So for example, if it really is your intent and your goal to make your audience comfortable, or to make the person you're speaking to comfortable and understand what you're saying, if you're watching them shrink back in fear, something in you should click. Maybe I'm speaking too loud. Maybe I'm yelling. Maybe I need to back up a little bit. Maybe I'm being a little too aggressive. And I think those things are easier said than done.
No, but being aware is so important.
And I think a lot of times we lack awareness in, especially when emotions are high, or when we're excited. It might not even be a negative situation. It could just be excitement, right? Not necessarily anger or disrespect.
Exactly.
But it's really important, just as we value how people respond to us, we also have to value how we're communicating with people. And be respectful of the social cues that they're giving back to us.
I agree. And I oftentimes wonder if what we were taught, because I remember, I said this earlier for the folks who just joined, or repeating now for the people who've been with us, is I remember taking a class through this program on, as a minority, it was a minority group, and I remember taking a program on what to do in corporate America and how to watch yourself when I was first entering corporate America. Maybe it was like 2 years after I took this class, and it was exactly, black men, avoid moving up because this is how it's interpreted. Sit back, make sure you're steady, make sure you know your voice is going to intimidate people. I remember that. Now that was years ago. That was like 20 something years ago. But I wonder now, as these new millennials are entering in the workforce, what are folks telling them? Because I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that.
I think that if you are a non-white person, even if you're not being told that explicitly, you're being told that implicitly. Whether it's through school and training, or through other colleagues who subscribe to that same mindset, or maybe even from your parents. You know, so for example, we spoke in the last segment about how do you tell your children to communicate to the police. And some people do teach their children to be less assertive when speaking to authority figures. They tell them to not do anything that seems too aggressive. But what's aggressive is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Absolutely.
To some people, eye contact.
Unless you mean it.
Right. Well, and to
That's
some
its
people,
intention.
eye contact is aggressive.
Right.
To some people,
it's respect.
Speaking intelligently is aggressive. To some people, you know, speaking confidently and speaking in a regular tone of voice can be perceived as aggressive or too assertive.
Absolutely. Erica said, I can be a bit of all of those communication styles depending on the circumstance. Absolutely. And we had talked about that shifting before, is that it's not just one that you fit in. Like, I'm analytical at work, but I could be amiable when I'm out with friends and really just say whatever restaurant you want.
Right.
You know, and what does that look like and feel like to people? So absolutely. Thanks, Erica.
And I think that's really important, though, that you can do that, because even something as simple as deciding what to eat at a restaurant.
I know.
You know, it just shows that you are capable of not being an executive 24/7.
Right. but it was learned. It was a release. It was somebody pointing out to me, like, hey, you're always in work. I remember somebody saying to me one time, wow, I didn't know you could relax after work because you're always in like checkbox mode. You're always in meeting mode. And I didn't think I was. This is how I speak normally.
Right.
I'm not in checkbox mode, but that's what was coming across. And I remember having to release control. We talked about control, and yeah, I do want Thai tonight. I've been craving Thai all night, but at this point, I've made so many decisions today that whatever it is you choose that doesn't have cheese, I'm all in.
So you secretly want some cheese. That's what it is.
Is that what it is? No, that's
is.
not what I want. That's so interesting. I'm telling you. So communication is just so big. I think that the lack of communication can ruin relationships. I think communication is one of those things like finances in a relationship that is so big. And if you can't figure out that mode of communication, of where you don't shut down, of where sometimes you have to be the one that says, hey, let's talk about this for real. We're bigger and better than this.
So when we come back, we're going to talk children and communication. What are some of the biggest challenges we have with communicating with children? And what are some solutions?
Absolutely. Love it. Now we're talking.
Like keys, only have this bitch jumping. Okay. If I sit around, hold up. Look. If I sit around, hold up. Yeah. Rebel up. If I sit around, I'ma smoke some more. Wasn't even thinking about smoke before, but I'm in my head and I'm in the bed. Don't know who I am, like I'm wearing a mask. Working mode, tell them where the cash. If you wear the cash, tell them where the cash. If you playing for you, gon' run it back. Don't make promises, but I promise that. Don't promise me, cause I ain't into that. Fell in love with that and got hurt from that. That was all over and the curtains back. Can't see you not noticing that. I'm letting it go, it ain't holding me back. Yeah, I'm on dice, but ain't come for the crack. Drinking with uncle, we only do jack. How I'm alive, I thank God for that. Praying about it, things getting better. Open it up with my name on the letter. Why you crazy about it? Saying whatever, you shy to be you. You know you gotta be you. Sometimes I need privacy too. Yeah, you know I ride. You know I ride, and you know you ride for me too. Yeah, you know I. Look, you like getting that hit for real. When it's me and Murray, just us, we chill. I'm in a rush to get off to get you. Never ever had to floss to get you. Pay the dues that it cost to kiss you. Rug burns on the carpet with you. Oh yeah. Come on, dog, throw this in there. Had to dedicate this to the homie out of New Orleans. Break.
We're rewarding you for something you already do, listening to us. It's Radio Loyalty, and it's an easy way for you to get free stuff. All you do is sign up. Go ahead and click the banner now. You'll earn points as you listen. Points you can trade in for great products and services in the Radio Loyalty store. You can earn even more points when you share your favorite station with friends on Facebook and Twitter. Radio Loyalty. It's free to sign up, so click the banner to join now.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin and Lolita. We've been having a great conversation tonight about communication.
Absolutely. I do have a communication question for our Facebook people out there. So unrelated. This is what we need help with. And if we don't ask, then guess what? We'll never know.
That's right.
So we want to get everybody for our next show on one watch party. How do we do that? I have a watch party going. We're on Now We're Talking show. That's not the same people. We're on Be Exposed Radio. That's not the same people. Mervin has a watch party going. So help request. If you know how we get on one watch party for overall communication, hook us up. All right. Back to the regularly scheduled program.
Yes. So we're getting into children and communication.
Yeah.
What are the biggest barriers, impediments, challenges to communicating with children in general, our children in our households, what gets in the way? What makes for great communication with children? What communication styles work? Which ones don't work? What should the ultimate goal be?
Let me tell you, I was in a doctor's office the other day, and I was just reading a book. You know, you pick up a magazine and you're going through it, and it really clicked in my head. I hadn't thought about it this way before. It said, when a child is growing up until the age of about 2, they're used to, in their eyes, you giving everything to them. It's more like, oh, here's my water, here's my food, here's my shoes, here's my clothes, you're washing my body. And then at 2, something shifts. It is, oh, I'm not in charge anymore. You mean you're telling me what to do? And it's a shift in their mindset, and that takes some getting used to.
Right.
And I hadn't really thought about it like that before. And I know that my son is 7, and he says things to me just the other day. It was this morning, actually. He said, why do you have to pick the homework assignments that I do? Why can't I pick the homework assignments that I do? They come home with 9 sheets. And
eye-opener, right?
yeah, it was. Because you're going to get all 9 done. So why does it need to go in the order that I'm suggesting for you? Or can I give you that freedom in that 9-box area to choose? So absolutely, you choose. And I don't know what was going on in my mind at the time, but I think that article really just gave me a different perspective to how truly, when you talk about terrible 2s, Walker didn't go through terrible 2s. It kind of came at 6 with questioning a lot of things.
But see, that's a perception there, right? So,
what, terrible 2s?
Well, just the use of the word terrible and that being associated with the questioning, right? Because I think I might have touched on this in another show. As we evolve, we understand that questioning is actually a sign of intelligence.
Absolutely, I do agree with that.
I think from the parental perspective, there's a certain point where we're just used to our children doing everything we say, when we say to do it, no questions asked. And then when they start to transition out of that, which they should, in terms of natural development as a child, that actually offends us, right? So actually, in that respect, we're the ones with the problem, because our children are supposed to become more intelligent as they get older. If your child is evolving from 2, 3 to 6, 7 to 9, 10,
and
they never question you, they never ask you why about anything, that's actually a sign of regression or lack of growth, lack of intellectual ability. Yet as parents, it rubs us the wrong way, because
I don't think the first why or the second why rubs you the wrong way. Well, rubs me the wrong way, because I do think it is the exploration. I do think it is a child inside of this world that is exploring and really wants to know, why does that thing make that sound? Why did you just say that? Because I think it's more when they express themselves a little bit more to understand the why. It's more helpful. It makes you more comfortable. But I think the challenge is when they get to an age where it's like, why this? It's more sarcastic with the why. Like, you know the answer
different.
Why.
Like if they're playing games with you, and you
or
pick
if you
up on
perceive that they're playing games with you, because you know. So where is that, line?
Right. But something as simple as eat your food. Why is it important for me to eat all my food?
I think that's a normal why.
There actually is a legitimate explanation as to why it's important to eat your food, that as a 5-year-old, your child does not know. Your child has never taken anatomy and physiology. Your child has not taken biology or chemistry. Your child at 5 years old has no concept of how digestion and the human body works.
So taking those opportunities to teach. So as parents, back to the communication aspect, I think that what we can do is then use those opportunities as teaching moments to say, oh, well, let me show you. YouTube is here for everything. Right?
Yeah. But also recognizing that in that moment, if your response is to snap at your kid or say, because I said so, at some point, even if it's not then, after that, in reflection, in retrospect, there should be some part of you that realizes that I need to handle that a little differently.
Now,
in my opinion, you might disagree.
No. I don't disagree. I think that it is how you were raised. And you tend to act. You are influenced by how you were raised.
Definitely.
There might be some things that you say, I'm not going to do that to my children. And who are the people that are surrounding you? When you're around and you see other people communicate or discipline their children, what do you think of that? Do you want your child to have that fear? Do you want your child to act that way? I pulled my son to the side and said, guess what? Everybody parents differently, and you're not doing that.
Yeah.
We don't follow others, or we lead, we don't follow, or something to that effect. But
I'm glad that you raised fear, because some parents relish the fear that they put into their kids, and in their opinions, it's a reflection of discipline. It's a reflection of order.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of their good parenting.
Yep.
If you have a child that fears you. And there are different perspectives on that. My perspective is different. I do think that there's some degree of fear that's healthy, but I also think that there's a difference between fear and respect. And I think that what we really want is respect, but we'll take fear, because often fear and respect accomplish similar goals, or they accomplish goals that appear to be the same. For example, compliance. You can get compliance with both fear and respect, right? And sometimes as parents, we just want compliance no matter how we get it. As long as we get compliance, as long as I can have quiet, as long as I can have you do what I told you to do with me only telling you one time, that's very valuable for a parent, especially when you work hard, if you have more than one kid, or you have an otherwise stressful life. If you could say something once as opposed to saying it 3 times, of course you'd rather say it one time, right?
Yeah, I do believe, and Mervin and I talked about this the other day, I think we can have an entire segment, which we will have an entire show just on spanking your children.
Also known as corporal punishment.
No, I believe in a spanking. So I believe, call it what you want. But I do, I got spankings as a child. And I know my brother, we were raised by the same parents, the same 2 parents. And my brother does not believe in spanking.
Right.
And I know you don't either. And we're going to have a guest on, I think in August, who is going to talk about spanking, what that looks like. And is that out of fear? I don't think so. In my mind, it's not. But what does that do to our children? And we'll talk about it. Everybody has an opinion on it.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting topic because it's directly relevant to communication.
Yep.
Because it is a form of communication. Right? Physical striking, contact, violence is a form of nonverbal communication.
It is. And I don't know if it makes it different, better. It is what it is. But, I talked to my son about what is it that you did? What is it? Why are you getting in trouble? Why are you being punished? Why did you get a spanking for this time? Is this a repeat offense? What's going on? Is this the best you? Is this in line with the affirmation you say every day? And so I guess I can't wait until August, but I know that there's some folks out there
it's gonna be hot.
That's a whole topic. That's like a whole topic in itself.
It's gonna be hot.
And it does get personal, because I think that when you do talk about that, people have really strong opinions when they don't spank their children. And people have strong opinions when they do.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. So we talked children. We've talked in general summary of styles. Carte Blanche wrote, yes, Mervin, I know one very well. I don't know what that was in response to. So I don't know.
Oh, maybe when I was asking about passive aggressive people or eye rollers.
Oh, maybe eye rollers. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she's talking about her. Maybe. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges to communicating with kids?
One, I think that one of the challenges you've already mentioned is that our minds are not at the same place. What we understand and believe, their minds are not full grown. And sometimes I feel like we talk to our children as if they should know. When we had the educators that were on our show one time, I think the single moms, the single mom episodes, I think it was Grady who said, y'all have to stop acting like your sons are your husbands and speaking to them as such and holding them accountable for things that your husband that you don't have didn't do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just speaking in a manner that you have to remember your child is 7, your child is 5, your child is 13.
Yeah.
They're not 40 or 50 or 35 right now.
Right. For me, one of my biggest realizations was coming to terms with the fact that my children reflect me. And so my communication style is going to be reflected in the way they act. So, for example, if I'm a yeller, I can't be surprised if I have kids yelling in the house. If I'm sarcastic all the time, I shouldn't be surprised if my kids are sarcastic in their communication style. Kids mirror what they see you do by and large. Whether it's your positive communication styles or your negative communication traits, they're going to mirror you. They're going to reflect what you give them. If you give them patience and understanding, more than likely they're going to reflect a patient and understanding style of communication. And if you give them the opposite, chances are they'll reflect the opposite.
I think oftentimes parents yield to do what I say, not what I do, because oftentimes as a parent, it's work. It's work to always act in that moment, to know that children are reflections of you or are going to do that. So we'll keep on talking communication. Thanks for those who have joined, and we'll talk it when we get back.
When we get back, we're going to delve into communication in relationships.
Woo.
Another easy topic.
Now we're
We'll be right back. Now we're talking.
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com. I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And
exactly.
Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature, and I can't take you seriously if you're not doing those things. And I understood why people didn't take me seriously, because I found myself in somebody else's lane. I was good at what I was doing and what I wanted to be, but I wasn't doing it for me. So how can I ask you to take me seriously if I'm living in somebody else's shoes?
And nobody can do what you do, and I think that that's a big problem that people face now. Like, you see what somebody else is doing and you want to do that when that's not your lane.
That's not your lane.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But it's popular, it's getting that person money, it's getting that person applause. Oh, I want applause. I want money. Let me stand over here behind them.
And then a lot of times people aren't honest with themselves either. Like, I was thinking earlier today, I've been woke for almost 2 days, so so you get honesty, and I was thinking, like,
The Artist Exchange Radio Show.
Long live Pop. Y'all can go ahead and cry now. I'ma show these niggas what to do with one of your beats, man. I am gas, by the way.
Strong woman story should have been on CNN. Nobody knows what it's like being Gwen. Windows closed in the house, it ain't no CNN. Can't gain weight for years, she been being thin. Single mother, no help from the system. When they was giving out food stamps, she missed them. Birth certificate, baby daddy, she couldn't list them. But her son was so beautiful when she kissed him. Blame it on love, but nigga she could've died with. Destroyed the whole world and found out she was a side chick. The nigga loved his wife and it got hard to hide it. So when Gwen confronted him, he ain't even denied it. Her fault, depends on who you asking. She tried to be a stripper, but the tip out was taxing. Buying all the purses, trying to keep up with the fashion. And her mama hated baby sitting with a passion.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, and welcome back. It is Thursday. It's Fifth Thursday, and we are getting reconnected with your show host. So we are excited, and we are talking all things communication. So we have already talked communication with your children, the 4 different communication style. Are you a driver? Are you amiable? Are you analytical? Or are you expressive? Or are you a rainbow of all of the above? We've talked which communication styles irk you, which communication styles do you prefer. We've talked being passive, aggressive, and being passive aggressive. So now let's go into relationships. I'll let you start on that.
So, what do you think are?
You can't start and then ask me.
No? Okay, I'll just throw it out there for our adoring fans. What do you all think is the biggest impediment or the biggest cause of communication problems in relationships? So I'll start. I think unspoken or uncommunicated expectations.
Yes, that is a big one. That is a big one.
A huge cause of communication problems in relationships. What would an example of that be? I'll throw one out there while you think of yours. When, let's say by the time we're both 30 years old, we should be bringing in X number of dollars into the house.
That's a big one.
And living this type of lifestyle.
That's a big one. I think one is if I've worked all day and you might not be working, or you might be off from work this day, or you're on vacation for a couple of days, then dinner should already be made.
Yeah.
Or the dishes should be done before we go. I think we can talk about that out loud. But
Right.
you know, there's
Right,
some,
right.
or if I ask you to do something, then you're going to do it within the next 10 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one.
That is.
Yeah, that's caused a lot of conflict in my situation, for sure. Or whoever gets home first from work is responsible for making dinner.
But I think that those are easy conversations to have.
They
I think
are,
that the
but-
issues become when we don't talk about them, or we don't set or reset expectations. Because as we grow,
Right.
expectations differ.
Right. And how about, here's another one, gender roles. It's how about, you know, some people come into marriages expecting their, and it's not even just marriages, it's relationships, period, because a lot of people live together that are not married, right? So a lot of people come into relationships thinking, when I grew up, my mother did this, therefore I expect my woman to do X, Y, and Z.
So let me tell you two
When I grew
books.
up, my father did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
He changed the carburetor, he changed the brakes, he cut the grass.
Did y'all talk about that?
He did
Or you mean that's just something that they're feeling inside that they haven't expressed? So that's just how they expect.
Usually it does not get expressed until there's a huge blow up at some point down the road.
So there's two books. I'll look them up on break. But the first one is The 5 Love Languages. I think have you read that?
Yeah.
5 Love Languages. I think that is such a powerful book, if you ask me. And I think that the reason it's such a powerful book is because it talks to you about what's valued by yourself, what you value, and then what the other person values. And then it even gives you strategies or things to think about in order to then cater a little bit more to the other people, or at least be aware to the other person's needs, and then you make the choice. The other one is 101, I feel like it's 101 questions to ask or answer before you get married.
Right.
The beauty of that book, I forget who put me onto that book. Maybe it was Carla. But I feel like whoever gave me that book gave me an idea, and what we ended up doing with that book is whenever we went out, or we said, all right, we're going out on this day, we would just knock out some questions out of it.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah.
And I will say that the ones we waited until the end for were communication and finances.
Yeah.
And those are the toughest too, if you ask
Like
me.
the two most important.
I know.
What I loved the most about the 5 love languages is it forces you first to identify your own language.
Yes.
Which, in order to do that, this is actually the biggest part of communication that I think a lot of us miss. It forces you to communicate with yourself.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it forces you to be introspective about who you are, what you want, what you expect, why you expect it, why you think the way that you think. And I think that most people actually go through life never doing that.
I know.
Like literally communicating with yourself.
I'm all about the introspective look. Whether it's my book, I think it gives you an introspective dive as well. But I also think that this book was any book, I believe, that makes you that gives you the power to write things down and then communicate about it, is huge. And so I agree with you. The 5 love, I mean, I think that thing's been making money forever. That was like a winner.
And in all fairness, and because I'm guilty of this as well, a lot of times when we evolve out of one place to the next, we speak in the present tense that makes it seem as though we've always been there. So like where
true.
I am after 3 decades, 4 decades of life is not where I was 10 years ago, is not where I was 12 years ago, it's not where I was 15 years ago. So when I talk about being introspective and how important it is and the value of communicating with yourself and being conscious of why you think what you think and why you want what you want, I was not always this way to that extent. It's been a process. It's required a lot of growth and evolution and hardship and pain and struggle. And so like by no means are we trying to convey that we have it all figured out and we have all the answers, because we don't.
Right. But I think that the point that you do bring up is as we evolve as an individual, because sometimes we evolve at a different pace, most times. One person is evolving at a different pace than the other person in a relationship. The key, though, is talking about it.
And not only that, not judging your partner for not evolving at the same rate at which you're evolving.
Or what happens when you go to talk to your partner and they don't want to hear what you're saying? Do you shift how you're saying it? Do you try to shift your perspective? Do you try to shift the how so that then they get it? Do you go back to thinking about the different love languages?
Yeah, I think it's important. I know I've had, female friends come to me for advice or asking questions about the way they communicate with their significant others. And a common one that I've gotten over the years is he's telling me that I'm too aggressive, or he's telling me that I'm emasculating. And I think that's some BS. And there's just, there tends to be just a lack of humility, I think, that we all struggle with, and accepting feedback that's not flattering, accepting feedback that's communicating to us that you need to change what you're doing. You need to adjust what you're doing.
But if a man feels, because I think this is a big one, if a man feels as though his masculinity is being taken away, very rarely have I heard of a man actually saying that without being angry. They might tell somebody else, or somebody might notice it and say something to you maybe. But oftentimes, because either you've always been like that, but they are shifting and you are not, or you switched it up. But how do you know if the person doesn't say anything?
And I guess, so that raises a bigger question in terms of communication is, when someone brings something to your attention, do you get a pass because they should have brought it to your attention earlier? And because sometimes we do that, right? And like you just said, I know I've said it, I've been this way, or I was this way when you met me, or I was this way 10 years ago. So therefore, you don't have the right to raise the issue now. Like, that's not really logical, right? I don't think that. I think
that we do shift. But no, my question was more, if you are a man in a relationship and you feel as though what I've said makes you feel less of a man, when are you going to say that to me? Or are we leaving it to somebody else? Or are you assuming that I already know?
No, that's another problem. I think everyone has a responsibility to communicate their feelings.
Yeah, I don't know if you don't say anything.
If you right, you can't expect your mate to be a mind reader, and we do that a lot in terms of in general in relationships. We do expect our mates to be mind readers.
Here's a question: what if the male does say something and the woman still emasculates him, and she knows the love language?
We need to. That's a great question, and we'll handle it as soon as we get back from this break.
We'll be right back. Well, now we're talking.
Now we're talking. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing. Well, let me tell you about this. Tyler, okay, told Oprah, bitch, if you don't have my money, we're going to have a problem. Ooh. Oprah said, what is the problem? Ooh. You said if I don't have your money, there was going to be a problem. So Oprah is standing her ground like, bitch, I'm in charge. Yeah, you know, you may have a $250 million studio over there that you film all your shows and movies and stuff on, but I have the empire. That's what Oprah said.
Oh, these are her exact words. Allegedly.
I made this up. But
allegedly.
I made it all up. But there was a rumor that they were beefing. But Tyler confirms that they don't have any issues. So it says it was recently reported on the rumors that was swirling that the twosome were on the outs over constructive criticism of a Perry show. Well, I got some constructive criticism, and we can be on the outs, Tyler, and I don't give a damn because I'm going to make a promo out of this anyway and share it to your page. I need the scenes on Have and Have Nots to be like 5% shorter, each one. I want you to watch an episode of The Young and the Restless, because this is supposed to be a soap opera. No one's dialogue on The Young and the Restless is like this. You don't have to talk about the random plant in the corner for 25 minutes on one damn scene.
They talk about random plants.
It was a blood stain on the floor for 5 episodes. I can't take it. We need to kick this up. I'm sorry. I love the Have and the Have Nots, and I continue to watch it in its 5th season. But I get so mad when I can go get myself a glass of water and come back, and he had just started the next sentence in his first paragraph. I can't stand it.
They just want to get the point across.
It's not but you don't get the point for 4 episodes. It's too much. So, now according to ET Online reports, Tyler Perry has a pre-cut and dried response to a pretty cut and dry response to the rumors about him and Oprah. Here's what he says. It's completely false.
What was that? That was your Tyler Perry impression? Oh, God. What?
That was my Medea voice.
Oh.
Nothing is accurate in this article except for mine and Oprah's names. That's what he said. I mean, you see what I mean? You gotta stick around. I mean, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. I mean, they pay us to do this. So we go off every week right here on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. We are talking, it's the 5th Thursday, and we are talking our reconnection with you, our audience, communication. Wow, we talked a lot of things, gotten great engagement, and The last question that we got that we said we'll start with is, what if the male does say something and the woman still emasculates him and she knows the love language? What should that person do?
It's a good question.
It's a great one.
Off the top of my head, I think that in general, we spend too much time focused on changing the person that we're with.
Absolutely.
And not enough time on self-reflection, self-assessment, self-criticism, and growing ourselves. And so I think part of being a leader in your relationship and in your home is setting the tone and being the person that you want the other person to be in terms of how you're treated.
Yeah.
So I would first have to ask, is there something I'm doing that's causing that person to speak to me in this way? Is there something I'm doing to cause that person to treat me in this way? Is there some area that I can grow and change and be better? And focus on that. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, you've done your job once you express yourself and your feelings to the person. And so if you make that your focus for an extended period of time, and I think only the individual person knows what that time period is, then at some point you have to decide what it means to be with that person. And does that person treat you the way you want to be treated?
Right.
And if not, are you willing to stay in that relationship?
Yeah, I think one, it's about knowing what you're worth, right? I think this question specifically is the woman still, it sounds like after you've had the conversation, after you believe you've had a conversation, and they still continue with the same behavior, you've already know your love language, you've already said, I'm assuming multiple times, like, hey, this doesn't feel good, then you got to ask yourself, is this somewhere that you want to stay? So the next question is, he should leave her, right? That's on you.
I think not before he does the self-work.
Yeah, you need to, absolutely. You need to understand, I believe, internally, what you believe your worth is. Why do you feel so emasculated? And have you really had the conversation? I believe that nobody else is in your relationship. So even when we tell people what's going on, we don't tell them like the whole story. Right. We tell them the way we were feeling from our perspective. And I also believe that we tend to marry or get in relationships because of the potential we think the mate has. Right. Because, the change that we believe that we can have on them with how we're living in our everyday. But when you get clear on, they're showing you exactly who they are right now.
Yeah.
You're showing them exactly who you are right now.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah. And just to be clear, most times that I've been asked that question by a woman dealing with that issue in her relationship, I know, knowing that person, that chances are they are emasculating. But it's not my place to tell them that.
Or do they know that they are? That's the question.
No,
do you know?
No, they might not know. I'm saying that I know because
I feel like
I know
a lot of
that
women
person.
don't know what that might look like or feel like. If you are a checklist type of person, I'm going to use myself. If you're a checklist type of person and you're going through that, you might not recognize that this is how it's coming across to me, because somebody might have said, I don't work for you.
But what's bigger than that is you might not want to recognize it, right? So
Absolutely.
before it's brought to your attention, you have that excuse. I didn't know, my partner did not communicate it to me. I really had no idea, and I'm sorry. Once it's been brought to your attention, now you do know, and you have a decision to make, right? Your decision, it typically, now you're in a fight or flight situation.
Or when it's been brought to you with examples of what that looks like, not with, I feel emasculated. Okay, what did I do? What did I do that made you feel that way?
And if the person that's bringing it to you is incapable of articulating himself or herself, then that's another issue, right? So again, in communication, it's always a two-way street. So if you're bringing a complaint to the person, it's your responsibility to be able to articulate
with
what
examples, so that you know, so that the person can be made aware, so that then after you make them aware, then you decide. There's a choice in every single thing that you do. So
the flip side to that is the last thing I'll say about it is we also have to be fair, right? So you can be in a relationship with someone with whom you are a better communicator.
Absolutely,
you are a better
I believe
articulator. You might even be more intelligent than that person. And I think sometimes people take advantage of that. If you have a partner that's not as confident as you, not as intelligent as you, not
What do
as
you mean they take
well-spoken as you
advantage
are.
of that?
Well, if you're in a relationship with someone who is not as good as you are at gathering your thoughts and articulating your thoughts and feelings, and then you can take advantage of them.
You mean yeah, I see.
By basically
talking over them or assuming like what they're saying.
You can really be, verbally, physically, and psychologically abusive to a person if you have those advantages over them. So don't use a person's inability to articulate the concerns that they're bringing to you as an excuse not to change or not to do better or not to be better.
Okay. Thank you guys for all of the input that you've written today. Did you have anything on yours before we hop into the books on communication? I mean, on your feed. Sorry.
No, just fans enjoying the show so far and telling us that we're speaking the truth. Thanks, Gaynell.
Yay, love it. And one final thought on my feed that I'm looking at is, I think women know when they are emasculating a man. I think they don't care in the moment. Potentially, some of them. Okay, so in my book, The Intersection of You and Change, as I told you, it journeys you through 17 stops. And also, men have read this book. Mervin.
I read it.
Yes,
the book was
a lot
excellent.
of men. Why, thank you, Mervin.
It helped me a lot. I jumped on the change train. And it was also extremely motivational as well.
Oh, thank you.
So if you need some pep in your step, if you have a dream deferred and you're looking for a pick-me-up, you're looking for how to get started, but you don't know exactly how to do it, or you can't quite put your hands on what's in my way, what's stopping me, the book you need to get is The Intersection of You and Change by
I love
Lolita E. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to start at stop 15. I do not encourage you to jump to stop 15, but if you have my book, it's on page 84 and it's called Communication Circle. And the way my book is set up is that it starts with an acronym to kind of ground you at the stop, and then it takes you through the journey and also then gives you questions. So this acronym is communication. And I think it's some of what we talked about. So we'll talk that after this. It says, communication is the circle that doubles as a two-way lane, occupied by many truths, which may or may not cause you pain. Maneuvering in this open space of honesty for those who you are with, maintaining a dialogue of transparency will hone in on this special gift. Uncut and unfiltered, occasional fear and doubt may dance in your head, notwithstanding emotions of the words and gestures that were or were not said. It could be your ego or even your limiting beliefs that block your way. Communication is at the heart of understanding if you should or should not stay. Accept your right now to be in this moment and check your values are still aligned. Tackle a clear goal you want to achieve so everyone involved is able to shine. Instruct yourself to listen even more than you will speak. Onboard patience, unleash confidence, and be willing to compromise, for it does not make you weak. Nourishing your relationship with healthy communication is something we will all at some point seek. Welcome to Communication Circle. We talked about a lot of that.
Yeah, we did.
Right?
We covered a lot of that tonight.
We did. It talks about making yourself vulnerable, of stepping back and looking, of maintaining a dialogue of transparency, of maneuvering in an open space of honesty, which sometimes comes so difficult to some of us.
Yes.
Right? It talks about tackle a clear goal so everyone is able to shine. So it's not just you, but it's your mate. It's the person you're talking to. Nourishing your relationships. I mean, patience, confidence. So a lot of what we talked about.
Yeah, I love it. And what chapter was that from?
This is chapter 15. It's stop 15. It's called Communication Circle, and it's on page 84. You know, the stop, I start the next section. It says, this stop surfaces an ever so slippery slope. Even here, like it's kind of like, it's not black or white, but really articulating what's on your mind to the other person, or else you have this communication gap. Right. And so in here, it talks about a story of mine, and then you got to get the book for that. And then it talks about a couple of questions, like the first one says, what is one thing that you've been holding back on that may be helpful for you to communicate about or with to someone. Like, write that down, get it out, and then it leads you through a couple of other exercises before you go to the next stop. And this one even gives you an outline of how to communicate with that person. I went all in on this.
You did.
All right. So where can we find communication in your book? Because I've read your book as well, and I thought it was just not only a good short read, but it was impactful right away. So where are you taking us inside your book?
Thank you. So I'm taking us to chapter 2 of the book, which is titled The Difference Between Loving and Spoiling. And this is an excerpt from A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son. And I devoted an entire chapter to this topic because I noted throughout so many different experiences that there was always this tug of war between loving and spoiling when it comes to raising a child, especially if you're the only parent in the home, because there's not a lot of opportunities to be good cop and bad cop, because you have to be both, right, at different times. And so I started off the chapter, talking about this, and here's an excerpt that I'd like you all to give some thought to. What many single mothers forget to do is teach their son the value of reciprocating their love. A little boy is never too young to learn that love should be a two-way street. It is not necessarily something that he can be made to do, but something that he should want to do. At an early age, the reciprocation should be in the form of a simple thank you. A young boy should not be comfortable taking or accepting anything from anyone, especially his mother, without thanking that person for it. If he is comfortable not saying thank you to people, it is because you have allowed him to be. A little boy who does not say thank you will one day be a teenager who not only doesn't say thank you, but also wants 10 times more than he is willing to give. He will never engender the goodwill or favor that comes from being thankful and letting those who give to him know that he acknowledges their generosity or kindness. Instill in your son as early as possible that people, including you, do for him and give things to him because they want to and choose to, not because they have to.
Absolutely.
Even though your love for him may be the driving force behind what you do for him, you are still choosing to do it, and that choice should not be taken for granted.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Communication, again, right? A lot of times we focus on communication with our significant others, with our supervisor at work, with our girlfriends, with our guy friends, but very rarely are we critical or introspective about how we communicate with our children and what we communicate to our children. And it does have a direct effect on the kind of teenagers they become and the kind of adults that they become, whether you're talking about a son or a daughter.
Absolutely. I underlined a couple things that I think both of our books actually talk on for communication. We both talked about a two-way lane. We talked about that here today as well. Honesty, a dialogue, being transparent. Is it your ego? Checking that.
Yeah.
Making sure there's understanding, talking about it in the right now. We talked about having a clear goal. We talked about confidence and patience, and the fact that communicating doesn't make you weak. Right? That's a misconception. Right. And then nourishing your relationships, because communication can be healthy, and understanding what the love language is. Let's talk about communication as we shift and we grow and we expand as an individual, as we elevate, then we're gonna have to have those conversations because we might be shifting differently than our mate. So yay, hashtag BAM. Ooh, I love it. We are rocking and rolling.
Excellent. And it is already time for
oh my gosh, it's already time for a break. So when we come back, we're going to wrap it up, give you our lovely acronym, and we'll see you in a bit on Now We're Talking.
Like the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you. But you can't listen to what them niggas saying. You gotta get out here and do your shit regardless. You gonna do what you love for the rest of your life anyway. So why not turn that shit into something? Be a man of everything you say. This shit bigger than me, man. Like like, yeah, I'm good and all that, but you know what I mean? I ain't shit without y'all. So no matter what you up against, go hard. Don't matter. Can you imagine how I really having nothing is? Stomach growling, you ain't got no food in the fridge. Surviving on a jail diet of water and bread. No father figure, that's cause my father dead. Mom's bringing different niggas in and out the crib. No money, so you seen it's less than all your friends. But it a joke because your mother was a crackhead. Older sister hoeing off, giving all the homies head. I could wait for your response, but they let it hear me talk, so I just wait for the applause. I always knew that I was great, I got them haters so appalled. I'ma make it out the darkness, and my word is my bond. Delivering these bars while I'm gripping on my balls. Jealous niggas hate to see you succeed, so fuck them all. I'm the master of my destiny, nigga, you not in charge.
I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me, and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin and Lolita. We have had a great show.
Absolutely.
We've been talking about communication styles, communication techniques, communication issues as they relate to children, as they relate to your relationships in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Wow, we were just on par tonight.
Yeah, it was an awesome show.
Had some feedback from the audience, so thanks for that as well. Love it.
If you've been watching the show and you enjoyed it, please share.
Yeah.
Share anything you see on social media about the show. Share our links. Share the show itself.
Mm-hmm.
Share. The more people that share it, the more people that know about it, the bigger the show grows. So we really appreciate your support, and just don't forget to share.
And we'd love to have you on. We'd love to have you on. So if you believe you have something to say, then hit us up, send us a direct message. You can also email us at nowwe'retalkinglive@gmail.com.
Yes.
Cool. So one of the things that we always leave you with at the end of our show is a few nuggets through an acronym. You know, I'm an acronym queen, and I brought Mervin on board, and we are here for it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today's acronym on communication is CLEAR. Because we want to be clear in our communication. CLEAR. C is really the reminder that children reflect our communication styles. So be clear in your communication. Mervin had an example of if he's yelling at home, then he can't be surprised when his children yell at school. Listening is necessary and important. Don't just hear what somebody says, but truly listen to what they're saying so that then you can respond accordingly.
With a goal of understanding them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves respect, so give the respect in how you speak. You know, when I was growing up, my parents always says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I find myself saying that too. Yeah. I find people saying that to me too. So, you know, we need to be reminded as well.
Yeah. So if you're super respectful at work to your supervisor, don't go home from work screaming on your woman. Or vice versa. If you are docile, meek, and super respectful to your boss at work, don't come home treating your man like yesterday's leftover dinner. Everybody deserves respect.
Yeah, everybody deserves respect. Then we have audience matters. Because in the beginning, we talked about really having a conversation and what nonverbal cues could look like, what verbal cues could look like, and knowing the audience when you walk into a conversation, right? which ties right into the R, which is realistic goals. So it's okay to have communication goals. When you go to talk to somebody, write the 3 goals that you want by the end of it. Write the 3 points that you want to make sure that you're communicating, because sometimes we get emotional and we get caught up in what they said, and you want to make sure that, hold on, let me go back to at least the things I know that I really want to get out inside of this.
Or at least think about it if you're not writing it. Be thoughtful about what your goals are.
Absolutely. Yay. Okay. So thank you guys. And you want to tell them about you and where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on mervinbourne.com, my website where I blog, and also where you can find the book, A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son. You can order it directly through me at the website or on Amazon.com, where it's available in both ebook for Kindle and hard copy. You can also reach me at mervinbourne@gmail.com, and you can find us on beexposedradio.com, on Facebook at nowwe'retalking.com, or on YouTube at the Be Exposed Radio YouTube page.
Yay. And my book is The Intersection of You and Change. And this book right here is available. Everything is available right on my website. My website is lolitawalker.com. And you can just click right at the top. It says the book or buy the book. And you can just go. You can read excerpts from the book or an excerpt from the book in the introduction. So I encourage you to do that. It's also at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. But also, I'm a certified life and executive coach, and what I pride myself in is my continuous twice-a-year women's weekend renewal retreats. It is truly a 4-day event that is packed with power, renewal, special guests, psychiatrists. We have a chef that's on duty all weekend. I'm doing some workshops. We're talking about really just, you know, taking that time for busy women to pause, reset, and renew. It's just so powerful. So you can get those tickets. It's in September
19th and 20th, right?
19th through the 22nd.
So if you've been putting off your self-care, putting off your self-renewal trip, stop putting it off. Reach out to Lolita and attend this women's retreat. You do not want to miss it. September 19th and
through the 22nd.
To the 22nd.
Yep, 4 days.
Oh, that's a nice.
And that might be, it is beautiful. And bring a girlfriend or come solo dolo. We are in it to win it. It's intentionally small, and it's between 8 and 12 women. And so I will, you know what, I'll put a code up there so you can save a couple dollars for our Now We're Talking crew. So I'll do that. And I look forward to seeing you all. So thank you for joining in. We've had a power pack.
Thank you. And if you're interested in sponsorship opportunities, advertising opportunities on the show, please email us at nowwe'retalkinglive@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
nowwe'retalkinglive@gmail.com.
Super affordable. And guess what? As you saw Mervin and I, and you saw Allison Daniels Ministry, Bourne Media Group, Walker and Walker Enterprises, as well as Now We're Talking. As you saw that, you can also see yourself. So we love to talk to you. Bye. Till next week.
Have a great week. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Check out this snippet from the new season of Talk Lately with Monty about Jennifer Holliday.
Anyway, let's get back to
yeah. Well, what I wanted to say is that I can understand 100% where Jennifer Holliday is coming from, and that's sort of kind of where my 20% came from when I basically came